Hi, everybody. Welcome to the pre-show. We have an unbelievably cool show today. Standing by on her yacht, live from the Indian Ocean, is Cole Brauer. And with her is the esteemed Vice Commodore of the New York Yacht Club, who helped tee this up for us, Claire Harrington, our super fozy, at her home in Greenwich, Connecticut. Delighted to have you all here as we count down this show, number 804. We've never had anybody live from the Indian Ocean before, but if it's going to happen, it'll happen here on Sailing Illustrated. To all of you, welcome. Hi, everybody. As usual, we're live from the Beach Street Yacht Club here in San Francisco. I'm Tom Eamon, your host, along with my co-host, Julia Vedekint, the Commodore here at the Beach Street Yacht Club, and our landlady here, an esteemed friend. We are in Studio B, and we, as we said in the pre-show, have Cole Brauer standing by, sailing, actually, in the Indian Ocean, a couple thousand miles west of Australia, headed to Sydney, and alongside her in her home in Greenwich, Connecticut, is the esteemed Vice Commodore of the New York Yacht Club, Claire Harrington. We're delighted to have them both with us on this very special show number 804, not 803.
I was going to say, wait.
Who's the graphics department,
Chris.
Julia? Knock
Wake
on
'em
that
up.
door.
Wake 'em up.
It's show number 804, not 803.
Yeah.
It's all the excitement of having Claire on here. And
It
of
is.
course, the reason we have Cole and Claire on here, and thanks to Claire for teeing it up. She's gotten to know Cole because Cole's a member of the New York Yacht Club, new member of the New York Yacht Club. But because you all, the viewers of this show, especially the Super Fozy, nominated and then elected Cole Brauer as the inaugural Person of the Year, 2024 Sailing Illustrated Person of the Year, from this august group of 6, including Ben Ainsley, Cole herself, of course, Pete Burling, Russell Coots, Grant Dalton, and Pinar Koskuner Yank from Turkey, who ran the Olympic. She was the PRO, overall PRO for the Olympics. Sailing, thank you, Julia, in Marseille. And of course, as you all know, Cole was the winner on the first ballot. We expected this could go to several ballots, but she was so popular and such a, what's the word I want, Julia? Such a... in demand
Yes.
character that most everybody thought she was the ideal person to be our inaugural Sailing Illustrated Person of the Year, with respect not to sailing, but to yacht racing. We don't know what the best term, sail racing, yacht racing, in her case, ocean racing especially. And she has done, we think, more for our beloved sport in a positive way, just like Time Magazine's Person of the Year, Julia.
Right.
We think she's done more for our sport in 2024.
She had up to 40 million people following her.
She did. She fabulous
Yeah.
job online and on the water, and that's why we're so delighted to have her with us today. Welcome, Cole Brauer.
Hi, guys.
Yeah.
Tell us where you are in the world.
I'm in the Indian Ocean, in the Southern Ocean. I'm 44 degrees south and 82 degrees east.
So on this map, and I thought the Indian Ocean, in fact, those of you who saw the promo for this show online, I thought you were already in the Pacific Ocean. I thought Pacific Ocean wrapped around the south of Australia and went around to Cape Lewin. I thought that this was kind of the demarcation right here, but it turns out most maps think it's over here in Melbourne to the west of Tasmania. So you're out here, what'd you say, in about the E, a little south of that?
I'm a little south of the A, so
The
I'm a little bit
A.
closer to. Yeah, I'm a little south of the A.
And you are headed to Sydney. Why and with whom?
So I'm headed to Sydney with the new owner of First Light, which is the boat that I'm on. Her name is Elizabeth Tucker, also known as Zaza, and she bought First Light in October of last year, and we decided to sail her to Australia together as a training session for the boat.
She's a Brit living in Australia now?
Yep.
And she's
Exactly.
bought the boat on which you won the global, or you were runner-up, actually, first female to finish, but the global solo challenge that finished in when? Year ago.
March 7th. I
March
finished March 7th.
7th. I found this post on Facebook on the Middle Harbor Yacht Club, which is apparently Elizabeth, better known as Zaza, I understand. Middle Harbor Yacht Club member Elizabeth Tucker, an inspiring sailor and former VP finance in the renewable energy sector, is embarking. This was in October before you started. I guess you started December 1st. Is that right?
That's correct.
So this was a 12,000 nautical mile journey from A Coruña in Spain to Australia, preparing for the ultimate test of endurance. She is going to take your former boat and sail it in the global, race it in the Global Solo Challenge 2027, according to this Middle Harbor Yacht Club post, on the non-stop solo circumnavigation of the globe. Tucker recently acquired First Light, the Class 40 that Cole Brauer successfully raced in the inaugural GSC. And after a successful career in finance, Tucker made the bold decision,
Indeed,
to step away from her role in in 2023 to fully commit to her passion for offshore racing. Within 18 months of starting her maritime journey, she competed in the prestigious Rolex Sydney to Hobart yacht race, solidifying her ambition to sail solo and nonstop around the world. Now she's aboard with you. Is she on watch? Is she asleep? Is she standing by and making fun of all of us?
She's got her headphones, so she's in her bunk. So we sleep in the bilge, and then the engine compartment, which is actually what the computer is sitting on, is actually in between us. And so that's actually our heater on board also in these cold temperatures down here.
Well, it's an interesting, it's not an exploit, it's just a tremendous.
Yes, it's a great undertaking.
Thank you, Julia. She went to Stanford, and so she's smarter than I, and I rely on her to correct me when I make a crouton. We told you about croutonicism in the tech check. But standing by is somebody who is not croutonic at all, is the esteemed Vice Commodore of New York, Claire Harrington. Claire, how did you and Cole get hooked up, and how did you get her to become a member of New York?
Well, we became aware of Cole pretty much how everyone else did, through her Instagram posts and the very compelling story and how interesting it was. And she was on everyone's radar, of course. And because we're very anxious to have the best, the brightest, and the most interesting sailors as part of the New York Yacht Club, we immediately went into action and said, this is a person we need to have amongst our members. And so we got her set up with everything you need to do to become a member of the New York Yacht Club. And I'm happy to say she actually accepted us, which is a great thing. And so I'm really excited about it. I should mention, Cole, you know this book, yes?
Yes.
So
yes, I have one.
And you've read it cover to cover, I assume. Right?
Oh yes, it's my Bible for sure.
So yeah, for a little light reading. So I just want to quote one line from the bylaws of the New York Yacht Club. And Tommy, you probably know about this too, and other New York Yacht Club members out there. And if you don't, I'm going to illuminate many of you about this. So the responsibilities of the officers of the New York Yacht Club. The Commodore, Vice Commodore, Rear Commodore are the flag officers, and as such, it shall be the duty of the Commodore to command the squadron. And as a new member of our squadron, I command you. So you'll know that when I ask you a favor, it's a command. So
Yeah.
no, we're just delighted, and I am so fortunate to count you amongst a new friend and hopefully a long-time relationship between the two of us. And anything I can do for you, of course. vis-a-vis
Definitely.
the New
Thank
York
you.
Yacht.
Now,
When you get a text message from Claire Harrington, you always answer it. You always answer that.
exactly right. And by the way, Julie is the Commodore of the Beach Street Yacht Club, our club here that's got 150 members from around the world. Next time you're in San Francisco, Cole, we invite you, don't we, Commodore?
Indeed.
To stop by the Beach Street Yacht Club. The initiation fee is not difficult. You bring a bottle of wine, or I don't drink, so you can bring a bottle of sparkling water if you want, whatever you'd like. The only requirement to be initiated is that you sing a song of your choice.
Okay.
And we'd love to have you as a member of the Beach Street Yacht Club as well. We haven't quite gotten Claire in yet because she's not been to San Francisco yet since we've known her. And we're
I don't know how to sing, so it's
yeah, right.
But you're not alone. No. Neither does anybody else.
Cole, do you know St. George's School in Middletown, just outside of Newport? You heard of it, the prep school?
Yeah.
Claire was the music director there for many years, and the organist and so on. She is a musician par excellence. So,
I knew this actually.
Oh,
I
you
did know this.
good.
you did? Wow. That's my former life. That's now ancient history. But
Well, we
No,
have
it's
people
amazing.
on, speaking of around the world. Greg Phillips is checking in from the Gold Coast of Australia. Christopher Gillingham with his wife, Jane. Last I knew, they're from Leamington, but they are they're in Malta. He sent some photos, which I didn't manage to shoehorn into the show. Gordon Smith is saying hi from Denmark. Alan Long in Texas. Chris Fury in Melbourne. So you're closing in on Chris, although you're headed to Sydney. Cole.
Yeah.
Joe Holtzman's in cold Colorado. Clayton Embley is in Kentucky, I believe. Rick Banner in Connecticut. Alistair Murray, the former president of Australian Sailing, is looking forward to meeting Cole, hoping it is the first hour as I have to leave for a meeting in an hour. Well, you've already met her, Alistair. We put her straight on at the top of the show. Tom Fishbeck down in SoCal saying, how cool, live on board. How cool. John Collings is also on from Melbourne. Mark Holland, hello to all. Hi, Cole. Congratulations on your award. Mark Holland is an America's Cup historian outside of Boston. John Emmets, who gives a regular report here almost every show, is saying the technology is working. It is indeed. And we said, Cole, during the tech check with you and Claire, I mean, the AV sync, the quality of the signal from you half a world away via Mr. Musk's Starlink and Zoom is incredible.
Yeah, it works. It works very well. I used it, and I have to say, I think it is one of the reasons why my success during the previous race, the Global Solo Challenge, was so good, was that I just exposed everything that we already know about sailing, and I just put it out there. And versus us being all landlocked, just we go and do our dinghy races and we come back and we talk about it, and the rest of the planet doesn't know what we're doing. I just put it out there. And it was like the first year, I think we were the first boat to go around the planet with Starlink successfully.
Well, you did more than that, though, and it's the reason why we are all so keen to have you as our inaugural person of the year. You not only did it and the technology and the comm skills, but you did it with this patented smile of yours. Yes. And you weren't afraid to show things like doing your nails and your hair, as well as doing all the gnarly yacht racing
terrible
stuff.
Right now.
Repairing it was just so much fun, and you made us happy every time. And I'm sure everybody was watching on IG or on any of your other socials.
Yeah.
You made everybody happy. You uplifted us. And,
absolutely.
Have you done other live hits? Did you live? I mean, to the Good Morning America or the Today Show or anyone else around the world? Have you done a live like this?
I Yes, when I got off, I did the Today Show, but you can't do Good Morning America and the Today Show. They don't want that.
That's right.
I did CNN, CBC, or yeah, CBS, PBS. I did almost all of them.
But
BBC.
was it live? Was it live to tape? They taped it and then ran it on the show. Did you do it actually live where people can ask you questions here from anywhere on the planet?
It was live, but most of the time they were about 8 seconds long. They were really quick.
Yeah.
My NBC one was about 30 minutes, and that's a small documentary. So
Fantastic. Gordon
That's good.
Smith is just saying, can I just remind he's in Denmark, a Brit living in outside Copenhagen. And he's saying, can I remind everyone that I promoted and presented Cole for this award? He is chuffed to bits. He's very happy indeed. Mark Holland is saying you're an inspiration. Blake Middleton up in Minnesota is saying Cole as first ballot choice as winner was absolutely correct. Alan Long agrees. Clark Chapin in slightly above freezing Plymouth, Michigan. I know he agrees as well. And on and on and on. Fabulous comments.
Yay.
One of the things Julia likes to say.
Yes. I always, every morning, I look forward to seeing you because your great smile
Aw.
just warmed my day.
But also
Aw.
about going back and reading the comments, you like to say.
Be sure to do it.
Exactly.
Oh, yes, do.
Yes.
You'll have plenty of time afterwards, but it is amazing. And you think you've seen and heard it all, but you haven't. And there are lots of fun comments and lots of spicy comments.
Oh,
and
spicy. Everybody, there's no name calling, there's no personal attacks. Everybody's very well behaved. There's Action Man, whom I don't know who that is, but is he saying hello from Tasmania? So you're going to pass by him in not too many more days. Chris Fury says he'll wave as you pass below Melbourne. And Blake Middleton again up in Minnesota saying this is the coolest Sailing Illustrated ever with Cole live from the other side of the planet. Graham Sweeney, who we're going to feature in a few minutes, is up he's a Brit living in Yell, Scotland, about as far north as you can get in the British Isles. And he says, Cole, you did a lot more than put it out there. You switched on a whole new generation to the sport. So that
Yes,
is nice.
that's
And I know
nice.
Claire agrees with that as well. We've talked about it at length, Claire, haven't we?
We have indeed. I think that the whole social media platform has changed the game. It really has. The thing that I found particularly notable was all the posts that you did, Cole. It wasn't just about obviously there was some of this, changing sails and talking about the weather conditions and all the things we sailors like to know about. But I think for the people who are not sailors and don't know about this whole aspect of our sport, to see you doing sort of the normal everyday stuff, like as mentioned before, doing your nails, taking care of your hair, or entertaining yourself, or dancing, doing all the things that we don't see, we don't think about as you're doing an ocean crossing or a long distance sail. So, and that I think that just really brought it home to a lot of people. But this is pretty cool. And so you've gained a huge following, and they talk to their friends, and they talk to their friends, and it's true that younger generation has just really latched on to this, and it's been a tremendous spotlight put on our sport. So thank you.
Clayton Embley in Kentucky, and he's back and forth to Florida and various other points. He's saying, true that. Cole, you are an inspiration to several young. His daughter is an international equestrian down in Palm Beach in Florida, and he's been telling us all along how his daughter got turned. Her dad's a sailor, and she grew up in a sailing family, but how the daughter got turned on by your experience, Cole, and that meant so much to him as a sailing papa. Alistair Murray's got
Oh.
the first question. He's the president, as I mentioned a moment ago, is past president, esteemed past president of Sailing Australia, long time friend, like for 40 years. He's saying, can Cole tell us she is sailing in a very light wind right now? There doesn't seem to be any movement. What's going on in your boat?
It's only, yeah, so this is probably the lightest winds that we will see. It's about 24 to 30 knots of breeze. Earlier today we were seeing about 42. So this is actually a lot lighter. We have quite small sails up right now, like 2 reefs and the Solent, which is our biggest jib. So it's not really, we don't have a giant head sail up or anything like that. And in this sea state, it's kind of like being in a little bit of a washing machine. It doesn't look like it. I've tried to, everything's, as you can see, my ditch bag over here is pretty strapped up and everything. So most things
I think
won't
that's the
move.
point that Alistair Murray's making. It looks remarkably calm.
It does.
It looks like you're, sitting at your desk on shore almost.
I know. It does kind of look like that a little bit. It's actually it's quite calm right now. The washing machine has slowly died down, and we were seeing 5-meter waves a little bit earlier today, and so it's probably down to 3 meters, which is a lot smaller, and they're actually coming from one direction versus getting very confused. So less of the washing machine right now.
Jeff Kitson, who's another regular, is saying, my 7-year-old granddaughter started her second year of junior sailing this summer watching you with him. So that, I mean, the inspirations, again, this, I'm sure, from all the kudos. And Alistair Murray is saying 24 to 30 knots, that's light wind? Bravo, Zulu. That's really something else.
Yeah, the Southern Ocean's light winds versus heavy winds is very different. Like heavy winds in the Southern Ocean is like 50, and light winds is anywhere in the 20s.
Thierry de Jong, who's a Dutch guy living here in California, actually, is asking, what speed are you doing with the sails up and that wind speed?
About 13 to 15 knots of boat speed right now. So we were doing earlier today, we hit actually a pretty good maximum of 23 knots, which is actually a lot for a 40-foot boat that has so much inside. Like we have a ridiculous amount of diesel and a ridiculous amount of water and sails and everything. So to be hitting 23 knots is a lot. We jumped from one wave to the next, and when we hit the next wave, it hit behind the keel. So we actually launched and flew to the next one.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah. And it's like launching the condo. Like we have so much stuff. I've got pillows. I've got, it is like launching the absolute condo. So you don't want to be launching a boat like that too much.
That's amazing.
Here's a question I don't want to lose track of because it's from Magnus Wheatley, as we call him Magnus the Magnificent, is one of the great scribes, authors, writers, and a hell of a good sailor, a Brit. You may know he was covering the America's Cup extensively for the organizing committee and has been a regular on here. Another one of our super Fozy who was a voter. And he's saying, getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but let's not lose track of this question. What does Claire want to do? What does Cole want to do, rather? I got Cole and Claire on here, and I'm going to confuse you through the whole show, I'm sorry to say.
You can go together, right?
The alliteration. What does Cole want to do both in the sport and after hanging up your Dubarry boots? Are you going to be Commodore Brauer of something? We'll make her Commodore of the Beach Street Yacht Club, won't we, Julia?
Sure.
Huh? What are you doing? We're going to talk about what you're doing next in sailing in a few minutes. But do you have a bigger picture of you in answer to Magnus's question?
I think that I had always been a big proponent to. So the original reason of why I started the campaign as a solo campaign was that I really wanted it to show that I can compete at a level in the offshore world as the same as the guys, and I should get paid equally.
Absolutely.
Do that again, Julia.
There's no question about that.
Huh?
Yeah. And it's
And so
important.
Say again.
it it's super super important. And I'd worked in the professional world for years before I did my campaign, and I was getting paid about, I don't know, a quarter of what the guys were getting paid that were sitting right next to me, that were younger, that had less experience. And um, I was sitting at a bar one night with one of my best girlfriends who's in the industry, and we were sipping martinis, and one of the guys on the boat next to me, I was like, I just got drunk enough to ask him the question, how much are you getting paid? And he told me, and both of us were like, what? Like, in absolute shock. He was like, what do you mean? Like, that's base rate for all the guys. And I said, base rate? That is 3 times what we're getting paid. And we've been in this industry. I mean, she had been in the industry since she was 19. Now she was 27. And I had been in the industry for 5 years at that point. And shock, just absolute shock. And it's because there's no regulation. There's nothing to, you have to ask for it. You have to go out and you have to get it. And when I did, I got fired. So
Fired?
yeah, I was fired. So after that, it was kind of like, okay, that's it. I'm going to go and do my own thing. And I'm going to show that we really need to change this industry. And there's a reason why there's only 15% of women that are in this industry. And there's only 8% are actually go to the professional world and actually survive and make it. And they're not getting paid appropriately. So that's kind of that's my soapbox, and I'm still fighting all the time. And that was why I wanted to show that, hey, you can go out and you can do this crazy thing, and you can sail around the world, and you can be, 5'2" and 100 pounds and a woman, and not come from, money or status or a legacy name. And I mean, my parents didn't sail. I didn't sail growing up. And you can come into the sport at any time, and we will welcome you.
What got you in? If you didn't come from a sailing family, it's unusual, because most people who go on to bigger and better things, not all by any means, but come from sailing family. Julia didn't come from a sailing family, did you, Julia?
Nope.
But what got you into sailing, having not come from a sailing family?
I was always a water sport person. I mean, I used to kayak to school when I was a kid.
Where did you kayak to school? You sound like you were in Australia, like Jimmy Spithill and his family, who lived on an island and motorboated or sailed to their school.
I grew up on an island, but it was called Long Island, and it's in New York.
I love it.
I grew up in a really
if I may
small
ask,
town.
where on Long Island?
I grew up in a town called Springs. It's in between Montauk and East Hampton, and they used to call us the Dirty Springers, because Springs is surrounded by marshland and mud. And so they used to call us, that was our nickname in high school, was anyone that came from Springs into East Hampton High School, where East Hampton was the rich kids, Montauk was the surfers, and then we were the working class, the Dirty Springers. We were the fishermen, the carpenters. My dad's in construction, and so when I was a kid,
the North Fork, right?
South Fork.
South Fork. And
South Fork.
Claire knows this. Claire knows that area well. She's just around the corner from you, as you know.
Yeah.
Up in Connecticut.
Yeah.
Grew up on Long Island, though. That's where I was born.
You
and
did
raised.
grow up on Long Island, Claire?
I did.
Gordon Smith is asking, can Cole tell us about her new position in the Magenta Project?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm a newly added board member for the Magenta Project. It's been a couple months in the working. They came to me, I think, in August or September, and they said, "Hey, we're adding people to the board, and you've made quite a large impact to the sailing world, and specifically for women, and we want you on board." And I said, "Yeah, it's it's simple. It's just something simple that I can do to assist. I don't do a lot of the big things, but I vote, and that's kind of the important part. Is my voice is the offshore and media side voice, and coming from the professional world, I think it's actually it's a great position to have, and there's a lot more people coming up into this world, and a lot more women coming in.
Perfect.
And
Well,
yeah, I'm very excited about it.
then you know our super Fozy Andrew Pindar, who's also on that board in a leading light. He's a regular on the show. We know Andrew well.
I know Andrew very well. He's amazing.
And
He
he's a
is.
big fan of yours,
He
right?
is, absolutely.
And as we all are. Let me. I don't want to wear out your battery. What time is it there? Midnight? 1 in the morning?
Let me check. I'm on. I do sunrises, sunsets, so I've got a couple hours till sunrise. So
Okay. Well, we want you to be able to do what you need to do. Blake Middleton is saying yet another outstanding choice to be involved with the Magenta Project. Could not agree more. When you were headed down the Atlantic and you stopped off and you apparently busted your keel on something, right? Did you
Yep.
break your keel?
No, God, no. No, we're a tank. We probably destroyed whatever we hit. But it did dead stop the boat. Anytime you dead stop the boat, you really should check out everything. So we stopped into Cape Verde for about 6 days, and we were hoping for only 2, but Cape Verde's on a different island time than Long Island. So
well, while you were there, apparently you caught some food poisoning or something, because there's this picture that after your after your Cape Verde stop, you needed some medical attention, and I see you had an IV in your arm in this photo that I grabbed off Sail World in that good John Curnow article. What was this all about?
So I have a medical team that I had worked with called Regatta Rescue, and they work with a lot of the Sail GP guys. They've worked with the Marsham 32s in Newport and in Miami, so I hired them for the Global Solo Challenge, and they taught me pretty much how to take care of myself no matter what happens. So if I was to lose a leg, if I was to be dehydrated, or if I was to be pretty much everything other than death, I could take care of.
It's amazing.
Yeah, they did a really great job. And one of the things they said, we need to make sure that you can put an IV in your arm and that you could administer pain meds, like serious pain meds.
So what, did you just had some food poisoning or something? Or was it worse than that?
Yeah, so I don't know if you want all the details, but I couldn't keep food down for about 10 days.
Wow.
And I was offshore, and there wasn't really much that you can do. And then I was also in the tropics, so you're sweating out everything. And then we had an issue one day where we had a complete power loss. And so I was inside the boat running the engine to try to charge up batteries. And with the engine running and us with the Sahara Desert sand and fixing things next to the batteries, I stood up and thought, oh, I'm going to faint. And that was the moment where I contacted my medical team. They said, just put an IV in. You'll feel so much better. And as soon as I did, I was much better. And I didn't realize that my appetite was so off because I wasn't really eating that well. And then I was super dehydrated. When you're ultra dehydrated, you lose your appetite. And so, yeah, once I did that, everything was back to normal. This is my 3rd solo IV I've ever done. I did 2 during the race. And then I did 1 this time.
Is it true, Rick Bannerow, who's another of your big fans and a super Fozy, and I think was also a big supporter of yours, and we did the vote. He's a photographer, author, former Rolex rep in Connecticut. He said that you are a total needle phobic. Is that true?
Yes. Yes. It took 2 weeks of needle phobia training in September of last year with my medical team. First, we had to work on oranges and bananas and all these different fruit. Then they allowed me to practice on them, and then I practiced on myself. But it was, yeah, it really, it took a while. I'm still not that great. I mean, if you watch the video of what I on my Instagram, the video of me actually administering it to myself, it's not as pretty as like, oh, that photo looks great.
It's not like when you go to the laboratory at the hospital to get some blood drawn. It's not quite that clean.
My second one during the race was super clean. I didn't even need the tourniquet. I was like, we're good. I'm in, like done. But I was practiced.
Could
and
you
then
do
this one
that,
I
Julia?
had.
No.
Oh.
Have you ever done that?
No.
Claire?
No.
Claire Harrington? Could you
I
do
never
that?
have.
Have you ever done it? I'm not sure I could. I mean, I'm not a needle phobic, but I might figure it out.
I might do it if I had to.
Well,
When
you know,
there's need.
I think that's part of the motivation, right?
But
Go
when
on.
you
There's
need
need.
to,
You just
yeah,
do it.
you just have to kind of make, like, I ruined 5 needles before I actually got it right, and then I had to use my other arm because I had already bruised my my left arm, because I'm
Yeah.
doing it with my right hand into my left, and I bruised my left arm so bad that I passed out because I had to center myself, and then was able to get it first try on the next arm. But I've never had to do it with my left hand before either, which is super difficult to do. And the boat was kind of jerking around, and
Cole, I can barely cut my fingernails with the clippers with my left hand.
my dexterity is pretty good, but that just comes from sailing.
Let's move on to a more pleasant topic, to New Year's Eve. This again from John Kernow's article. He said about the magic of your disco ball in the boat, the famous disco ball. Yes, it still works. It started the party for New Year's Eve. We watched Sydney and London on the phlebotomy illustrated, Clark Chapin said. I guess on Mr. Musk's satellite system, you watched live from Sydney and London, and then a bit worn out by it all. But we did get to have champagne at different times for each other to celebrate safely. Every time you head below, you see the ball, and it definitely sends out the right vibes each and every time.
Yeah, wait, I can show it to you. Where is it?
There it is.
Oh, wait, there it is.
Yeah. It looks bigger in the photo, but that is cool. So you've had that since the start of the Global Solar Challenge, eh?
No, so that one we actually got in Spain. We got a bunch of weird things in Spain because we actually were quite delayed. We were supposed to leave like mid-November, right after the Vendée start, and then we got delayed because there was just these horrible storms in the North Atlantic, and so we just went shopping. And
that's the best therapy there is.
yeah, exactly. I mean, the boat was ready. We were all ready to go. I mean, everything was done, and it was Christmas time in Spain, and they're really big on Christmas. So we just went shopping, and that was one of the ornaments that was in one of the shops, and we were like 100% that has to come with us. And we knew it was for New Year's, but now it's just every day, just hanging up there. I hit my head on it probably, I don't know, twice a day.
So you went around the Cape of Good Hope. You went around the southern tip of Africa on just 10 days. Well, 14 days ago. It was the 14th of January, was it?
Yeah.
So 14 days ago. That was your second or third time around, but it was Elizabeth, a.k.a. Zaza, Elizabeth Tucker's first time. How did she react going around the Cape?
She was very excited. It was a really good moment. We had a great day. We had hit our top speed. It was actually, it was the record for the boat. We hit that day at 25.67 knots, which is a lot. And so we hit our record that day. The sun came out. Batteries were full charge. I mean, we just had such a good day. And then we crossed. And it was a great day for us. And I felt like it was a great way to start the Indian Ocean, because the Indian Ocean can be really brutal, especially because as soon as you start the Indian Ocean, you can only go east. If you want to try to turn around, you got to grab a system and you got to take this long route to try to get back to Africa if something goes wrong. So it was great to start the Indian Ocean with a great moment. And so I think she was really stoked also. And it's a huge deal. There's a lot of people that try to make it here and cross this area. It's super treacherous. Just you have this window of water that you can kind of cross, and you can't be too close to the Cape of Good Hope because there's a huge counter current that will fight against you, and the prevailing breeze, which comes from the west. And so you have to be really, really careful. And we didn't have any crazy broaches. Last time I crossed, I had cracked ribs. So this was much better. We played it super safe and we had a great time.
I assume that Claire Harrington, who teed this up, and thanks again, Claire, this has been fabulous, but Clayt Embley and others are asking, where can you, Cole, receive packages in the mail? Don't give us an address now, but before we get off here, if you'll either give Claire Harrington she's probably got your physical address, because Clayt Embley, who is in he's captain of the ferries in Kentucky, among other things, but he also is in the bourbon business. And you see behind me here in Studio B, if you're a bourbon drinker or a bourbon cream, this is better than Bailey. Sorry to all of our Irish friends, but Julia Vedican, we give her a reward every now and then and let her have some bourbon cream in her coffee. We have just regular coffee during the show. Clayt Embley wants to send you some bourbon or some bourbon cream, and perhaps others do as well, want to send you something appropriate.
Oh, that's very cute. Yeah, that would be great. I live out of my van in Newport, actually. But you can send it to my parents' house in Maine.
Well, we'll get that info either from Claire or I'll get it from you direct and pass it on to Clayt Embley, to you and the others. I got another photo here, and this is fairly recent. And this again from John Kernow's article. It's a tremendous article on sailworld.com. John is
he's great.
He is great. He's the Australian editor of sail-world.com. And by the way, he's not, but Richard Gladwell, who is the New Zealand editor, is a super Fozy and also a voter and one of our best longtime friends. But Kernow's article said, please meet the absolute badass, AKA Cole MacGyver. Already the owner of the fastest lap of the planet on a 40-footer, Cole Brauer is no mere dynamo. She's more like an engagement machine. When talking about her content on her channels, Brauer stated, quote, I think the reason why so many people got involved and then really wanted to stay involved is because it wasn't like I was just doing the sailing side, but also showing the weather side, the nature side, and then the kind of thing I'm doing now. You were apparently fixing your autopilot.
MacGyver fix.
The MacGyver fix, John Kernow, again, from sailworld.com. You must have loved that piece.
Yeah, he was. We were on the phone with him while I had the autopilot ram at my feet, and I was covered in hydraulic oil. And this is when I was switching from the primary ram to the secondary. The primary, every 12 hours or so, we were having to go back and syringing out oil that was trying to leave the ram itself and put it back into the reservoir. And then counting how many milliliters was coming out, and it was just a disaster. And so I took the older refurbished autopilot that we have and then put it in the back. But you have to get it all completely set up, and there was some corrosion and it needed a little bit of love. So while we were on the phone with him during the interview on speakerphone, and I was over there like fixing the autopilot ram.
Oh, proud of you. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Well, when we were on the tech check with you and the Vice Commodore, I asked you, well, what's next after you make this delivery? When do you think you're going to arrive in Sydney? Another, 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks?
Yeah, something like that, actually. Probably around Valentine's Day. I think is it all depends, honestly. It depends on if we speed up, slow down, weather, and things like that. But we'll probably go through the Bass Strait, so that will cut down in a couple days versus going on the east side of Tasmania. So if we can
Indeed.
cut through, it will cut out probably a whole day.
Well, good luck to you the rest of the way. But after that, what you want to tell us? Can you tell us? Are you at liberty to tell us what your next sailing endeavor might be?
Yeah. So I'm working with a team called Militia. It's the German ocean race and Vendée team, and I will.
We're big fans, as I told you in the tech check, of Boris Herman.
Yeah. He should be finishing the Vendée really soon. We chat a lot, actually. It's been really great he's offshore and I'm offshore, and we're not in the same race. We're not competitors. To kind of have confidants. I think I went the whole time without saying anything negative until the autopilot issue. And then I called him and I was like, I need to use the team. I need help. And he's got he's got 25 people on the team. So I got to use his boat captain, who then has every contact in France, and it really, really helped. And so plan right now is to move out to France in May. And I will start training with the team for the Ocean Race Europe. And then hopefully that will be the feeder into the Ocean Race in 2027. So that's the goal right now. And there's a couple other races in between there, like the Emeralds Cup and the Fastnet I'll be doing with them.
With Boris Herman. With Militia, Team Militia. You're going to move to Monaco?
Yep. They would love if I moved to Monaco. They would love if I moved to France full time, but I'm looking more in Miami because that's more of my style.
Have you been to that club? I know Claire, Cole, your vice commodore, my vice commodore, just was there at that club. 2 months ago, Claire Harrington?
Yes, in September, I guess it was. Yeah, maybe a little more than 2 months ago.
4 months, 5 months, yeah.
A quick trip over from Barcelona.
What'd you think of their clubhouse?
It's pretty spectacular. Pretty spectacular. Very, very fancy.
The old clubhouse, the Yacht Club de Monaco, the old clubhouse was pretty fancy. It was pretty nice, and I was astonished when they tore that down and built this thing.
Yeah.
And it looks like a cruise ship has come ashore. Right there, and they use it for the Paddock Club for Formula One, so it gets plenty of other uses besides just as what we would think of as a normal yacht club. Well, that's fabulous, Cole and Claire. Claire, you're going to stay with us for the rest of the show as a co-host.
I'll stay as long as you'd like until you throw me off. I'll be happy.
We'll never throw you off. That would be fantastic.
Yes.
Cole, we should let you. You've stayed almost 50 minutes with us. We saw it plus the tech check. We started at 12:30 to be. I had no idea if this would work or not. And it's worked. It's spectacular.
It is.
Huh?
Mm-hmm.
It's spectacular. I said to you in the tech check, Cole, the connection, again, thanks to Mr. Musk and Starlink and Zoom, but the connection is better than it is sometimes when we have somebody, on the other side of California.
Yeah.
Let alone on the other side of the planet. Fantastic. So Ocean Race Europe is going to be fun to follow, Gordon Smith is saying. And then the Ocean Race after that. Claire, any last questions or comments for Cole before we let her go?
Yeah, if I may, I'd like to just say a couple of things to Cole. First of all, we're just enormously proud of you, and can't say that enough. And when I contacted Cole, what was that, about a week or so ago, I was under the impression that she already had been informed of this wonderful honor that Sailing Illustrated had bestowed upon her. But of course she had not. So I was so pleased to be able to reveal that to her. And the best part about it was to inform her of the luminaries who were in the field along with her and the horsepower in that group, and that she had been chosen, as you mentioned, Tom, on the first round, was really extraordinary and so well deserved. The other part of it that we have not mentioned, at least not today, is that in the deliberations about the concept of this award, there were a lot of iterations about how it was to be handled. And, should it be the yacht's person of the year? Should it be the man of the year and the woman of the year, rather like the Rolex awards? And the decision was made that it was going to be one person. And so the fact that you, Cole, earned that honor and were voted in by the group, and it was a rather robust group of very knowledgeable individuals, is a real feather in your cap. So congratulations on that. I'd also like to say that to Mr. Embley, that if he wants to send the bourbon cream my way, I will be sure that Cole gets it. It may not be a full bottle, but
I was gonna say.
he'll get it.
So good.
You got to test
then-
it. You got to test it, Claire, to be sure that
Make sure it's not poisonous.
yeah, it's not poison. She doesn't get food poisoning
Right.
again.
And then the last thought I'll leave with you, Cole, is that I remember years ago someone gave me a sticker that said, "Women," let's see how to go. "Women must do things twice as well as men in order to be thought half as good."
Mhm.
Yeah.
Luckily, this is not difficult.
Yeah.
And fortunately for you, my friend, you're at a time in your life
Mhm.
that you will not have to deal with an awful lot of this stuff.
Right.
And you are in a great place in your career, and there's so much ahead of you. And a lot of this is not even going to be, it won't even be a thing anymore. So happy days ahead.
No, and I thank you so much, and it is such an honor. I really appreciate it. Like seeing the faces, of the finalists. It really does hit home, because I don't think, my team and I would have ever thought a bazillion years that when I, put the stamp down that this is what I was going to do, that this would have actually happened. This was my third campaign, and my first two were failed. And I had lost sponsorship and embarrassed myself. And then the third one being this one, and going around the world and doing the media side and everything. It was like it had been, 10 years coming of this process. And so you're right. That bumper sticker that you mentioned is probably something that I would have on the back of my van also. And I want to be able to use my platform for something of, like, there is for us, as being in the sailing world, sometimes as a woman feels as if you are fighting against a wall that will never budge. And I just want to make it a little bit easier for the upcoming generation, that when they get into that opti or that laser, or maybe even go to college sailing nationals, that maybe there's that woman who's driving in the co-ed and winning in co-ed, not just on the women's squad, but actually competing at the same level, and competing, like watching Sail GP, where you have the Brazilian driver, and like we're getting there, but it still takes a village and an army to kind of keep going. Nope, like you can't keep putting your foot on our necks. We're going to keep standing up. And so I really appreciate that when you did text me and you did say, hey, this isn't a woman or a man thing, this is a person thing. That means it gives me goosebumps thinking about it. It really is fantastic. And so, yes, I'm really happy, and this means so much more than any award that I could have gotten. So I really appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Well, the Rolex Yachts Man and Yachts Woman in the USA will be announced next Thursday down in San Diego and Coronado at a dinner, which I'm planning to attend because I'm a voter. And
I'll be there, but on virtually.
I am. I'm planning to be there in person and go down and visit Meg and my daughter and her new husband, whom we know well. And who knows who's going to win that? I have voted. I won't say for whom I voted. Probably wouldn't be a surprise if I did, but we'll see how that goes, because it's a lot of comments are in just now coming in about that. Joe Holtzman is saying well stated and a class act. This is a guy who's 85, a big fan of yours, and has been watching the show regularly from his retirement home in Colorado. He's just getting his knee fixed. Kim Pinnell is saying, amazing having Cole in the show. Have loved this interview. Is following from New Zealand. Her and Liz and their entertaining Insta feed. Go girls, no limits on what you can achieve and have already achieved. Indeed. So thanks again, Julia. Final thoughts?
What I appreciate is totally sharing the experience.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And making sure that everyone knows, like, we have been forcing this world into the idea that it's big and it's scary and and yes, of course we shouldn't be afraid, but we should respect it. We should respect the ocean and what we have, and that we have this big, beautiful planet. And I wanted everyone to know that, like, hey, you can do this. And you can do your nails and your eyebrows. I did mine the other day, actually. And you can be a woman and you can be feminine. And you can come out here and you can still put a reef in 50 knots of breeze. Yeah. And it doesn't matter how big you are, or how small you are. The ocean is everybody's.
Well said.
Well said. Thank you very much, Cole Brauer, our Sailing Illustrated 2024 Person of the Year. The first time we have made such an award, and live from the Pacific Ocean, a couple thousand miles west of Australia, headed for Sydney, Cole Brauer, and we so appreciate it. Mary Longpre saying, wonderful interview and such a magnificent person Cole is. Phil laughing, breath of fresh air, been doing this for 45 years. Fantastic. Graham Sweeney in Scotland saying, Cole, you're saying all the right things. Save the waves. Alistair Murray, just fantastic, and on and on and on. So bravo, Zulu, and thanks again for coming on. Have a good rest of whatever your night is left there in the Indian Ocean. And thanks again for coming on.
2 more hours.
Can we see your signature? Several have commented about your signature sign-off. There, we got it. We got it. Thanks very much.
Right, thanks, guys.
Big hugs.
Have
all
a
the
good
best.
night.
Ciao.
Bye, Cole.
Ciao.
Bye.
Oh, man. How refreshing was that,
yes.
Julia?
Oh, wonderful.
Huh?
Yes. Oh, gosh.
Claire, thank you again. Cannot thank you enough for teeing that up. Huh?
Well, when I command.
And by the way, Clayt Embley is saying that, oops, now where am I getting Claire? I got to get Claire tuned back in here. Clayt Embley is saying that he is going to send you so that you don't have to test her bottle. he's going to send you something as well.
Oh, gosh.
Chris Fury, brilliant interview and inspiring presence in our beloved sport. Alan Long replying to Gordon Smith, you'll be mocked. My 11-year-old just laughs at me. Okay, they're back and forth talking about how Cole Brauer has inspired the young women in their life. Can Cole do all the live interviews? Such a positive boost.
Yes.
Thanks, Philip Laffin, and thanks to everybody, and thanks especially to Cole Brauer. So we normally do this at the top of the show, Julia. We say, what are we celebrating today? And do you know what it is? Beneath the lower third.
It's a bonfire.
Up Heli
Up Heli.
It was in the show notes at the top.
Yeah.
This famous rite of spring going on in Scotland, in the Shetland Islands, as we speak. And it is a big, I think we've talked about it. I think we covered this at least tangentially last year because it's always the last Tuesday of January. Up Heli is a vibrant fire festival celebrated in the Shetland Islands. Thousands gather to witness the breathtaking sight of a long ship set ablaze, a Viking ship illuminating the night sky. Participants dressed as Vikings parade through the streets, adding an air of excitement. The day pulses with energy from the morning's activities to the evening's fiery climax, it goes on, and young men would drag barrels of burning tar through the streets, creating fiery scenes that sometimes led to accidents and disorder. These rowdy celebrations eventually prompted the community to rethink how they marked the occasion. By the 1870s, a group of local leaders, including the Total Abstinence Society, now that's my kind of group,
Yeah.
decided to bring some order to the festivities. They formed a committee, yada, yada. And today, up the last paragraph there, last sentence up, Heli-I is a well-organized, vibrant festival that not only celebrates the end of winter, but also showcases the islanders' pride in their rich cultural heritage. Speaking of that, you would be disappointed if we didn't have a direct connection to
Right.
up Heli-I and to the Shetlands. And as many of you will know, that is our super Fozy Graham Sweeney in Yell, where they've got a hell of a storm going on, as they did last weekend, and they did last week actually, and again today they got a full gale. And nonetheless, he texted and said, the lyric up Heli-I has begun. That's some miles south of him, and apparently the next island, with a march to the town cross to unveil this year's proclamation. And now the Jarl squad are doing the rounds to schools, the council building, and shopping arcades, singing this year's song. And I kid you not, this year's song is Country Roads.
Yes.
And I heard them singing it in one of the Facebook videos.
Yeah.
Country Roads. Come on, Claire.
Do-do-do-do.
Yeah, there we go. To the land I belong, West Virginia. But that's their song. And these guys are all dressed up like Vikings. They have different costumes each year. It's a good deal. And today, as the last sentence says, today's Up Heli-I will be one of the many such events that take place over the season, a time to leave the darkness of winter and put all your hopes on towards the coming spring. And
I'm ready.
that's from our super Fozy Graham Sweeney, who's a Brit living in Yell, Scotland. And here, Commodores, ladies and gentlemen, is that squad going into the city hall earlier today. Stingeray wants to know, is all the yelling why the island got named? I don't know about that. What a fantastic ceremony there at City Hall earlier today. The Viking, young and old, and they'll burn it. They've already burned it, presumably. It's, plus 9 hours to us. You'd think, Ted Ryman's saying you'd think there'd be banjos. I don't know about that. What great outfits, what a great custom. It reminds me of Las Fallas in Valencia, Spain,
Yep.
which is March 19th, I think, thereabouts. But you've seen that video. And they did, on another video, they broke into Country Roads and sang that, as we mentioned a minute ago. And when they burned the galley, and it presumably has already been done later in the evening there, and it's now, almost midnight there. What time is it, Graham? It may be after midnight, but in any event, visitors I see are welcome, but only 5+ year residents may take part. So they don't let just any carpetbagger come in there, Julia,
Well, as they should. No.
and be a part of that scene. But
right.
I would love to see that sometime. If Graham Sweeney sends an invite, maybe you should go over there, Julia. That should be your, you should go
and
over
live there
and
for 5 years and then go?
take part, live there. Well, don't live there for 5 years. We'd miss you. 2204, Graham Sweeney is saying, in Yell in Scotland, where they're celebrating Up Heli-I. Did I say that even close? Probably not. That courtesy of Shetland.org. And that's what we're celebrating, Julia,
Well, that's laudable.
today. And we're also celebrating all of you who support us, Sailing Illustrated's patrons, via patreon.com/Sailing Illustrated. And we really appreciate that support. We appreciate just the moral support and the liking, sharing, subscribing when you click the buttons down below to Julia's had her hands together in a
Right.
prayer.
Right, please.
Praying it helps us with the algorithm, both on YouTube and on Facebook. Thanks very much indeed for your support. We're also celebrating some FOSI today, Julia.
Yes.
We have a FOSI focus, I should say. A FOSI focus. Look at Claire's laughing at me. You can give me the finger wag, Claire. You can give me the Julia. Oh, a double finger wag, Julia.
Uh-oh.
We have a FOSI focus today. Friends of Sailing
F squared.
Illustrated. Say again?
F squared.
Yeah, F squared. Well, you know how, Claire, you know how I like alliteration, right?
Yeah, I do. I do.
We talked about FOSI Focus, Friends of Sailing Illustrated, cool people indeed. And we have a special birthday, Julia.
We do.
We do, and here's how we're going to celebrate it. Any idea who it is? Happy birthday to John Emmett's mom.
Oh, how nice.
Marilyn Emmett is 80 today.
Yay.
We want to wish a very happy birthday to John Emmett's beloved mother, Marilyn. Bravo Zulu, and happy birthday from all of us, Marilyn, if you're watching. And John, I'm sure will show it to you in replay, if nothing else.
Right.
We're also celebrating,
Oh,
see these two, Fozy?
yes.
That's Golden Lily, Lixia Zhu, or in Chinese, Zhu Lixia. By the way, tomorrow is Lunar New Year's, Chinese New Year. So we want to, it's bad luck, isn't the Germans say it's bad luck to wish somebody a
Ahead of time.
happy birthday ahead of time. And I don't know, Claire, do you find it bad luck to wish somebody happy birthday or happy holiday ahead of time?
Not in the least.
Oh, good. Okay.
Not in the least.
So we'll wish.
By the way, didn't we just pass Robert Burns? Isn't that right around now?
We did, I think, last week.
Has there been any mention of it?
I think only in the chat, and they were drinking to it. I know there was Hamish Ross was talking about drinking scotch, and I can't keep track of all these holidays.
Okay.
But yes, I think there was some mention of it. But we do want to salute these two because Peter Stevenson, who's been here in Studio B not too long ago, a.k.a. Pedro Foiling Sailor, has gathered up Lily. She is there in Australia, in Sydney, taking an RYA/Sailing Australia offshore course so that she can do more offshore racing.
Good.
She is transitioning from dinghy racing, now doing match racing and small keel boats, to where she's going to be doing some senior serious offshore open ocean racing, or so one hears. And Peter Stevenson,
With her gold medal.
well, with her gold medal, and she had a bronze medal before that.
Yeah.
Consider the lilies of the field. This from Peter, from AKA Pedro Foiling Sailor. Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. And for a friend, I'm making sure I'm looking after this one, John Emmett, looking after it for his friend John Emmett, and keeping an eye on her, even organized while she's here to do some skippering on big boats. It looks like he's organized her to be in the bar at the Royal Sydney Yacht Squadron. I'm not sure where that picture was taken, but that is courtesy of our Fozy Peter Stevenson, and that is our Fozy Focus for today. Speaking of John Emmett, that's John's wife, of course, most of you will know, Lily Zhu. And speaking of that, John Emmett's Coaching Corner is up next. The Coaching Corner with John Emmett, and here's his report from back in the UK.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the Fozy. So I'm going to do another weekend in the life, but actually this weekend is going to start on a Friday because I'm coaching quite a long way away, and I want people to see if anyone can guess where I might be going. But yeah, January's nearly at an end, so is my little bit of time off, and it's time to get back to normal. So if we look on my right-hand side, I'm here to give blood. It's something I do a lot anyway. Every 3 months I have my bloods checked, but I'm here as part of a future health initiative, which is a really important thing for future disease prevention, and it's probably the biggest study ever done. I always like to think ahead, and that's one of the very good reasons to have the blood testing, because it can maybe predict future diseases, what you need to be careful of, as well as providing useful research for the future generations of people to come. So very much in that role of thinking ahead. Before I hit the road, I'm going to go and do a little workout. So here I'm going to go and do a spin class. It's actually my first spin class of 2025. So yeah, it's probably going to be hard work. Very hard always after a little bit of a break, but very good exercise, especially for people in hiking boats, because you're really going to work your legs, cardiovascular system, but at the same time, it's low impact. Now, thinking about sports as I creep up to the leisure centre, anybody had any guesses yet where I'm going? I'll give you a hint. The sailing club I'm going is where I used to sail 30 years ago whilst I was at university. Did anyone manage to guess where I am? Well, I've been pretty emotional because I've come back to where, in a way, it all started. Well, I'm not a chemical engineer now, but I had a very, very good time at Loughborough University. In fact, most of my memories here are a little bit naughty, but this, for those people who haven't guessed yet, is Burton Sailing Club. It's 4 Mark Reservoir. It was really nice to bump into quite a few of the current Loughborough students. I started their first ever team racing event, and it's been 25 years since I've been here, and I'm here coaching the Ilkers. I think probably a lot of my memories are quite naughty. I remember driving here and doing racing between the speed bumps. It's good to see the club is going from strength to strength. In the background, you can probably hear the working parties are in full force. So yeah, everyone doing their best for a club. I mean, it's not a warm day. I'm wearing a lot of clothing, and I think there's perhaps some venues that sound a little bit more attractive this time of year, but we've had very productive training. And it made me think, going back to how it all started, how we bring more people into the sport. And, you know, I think it can be accessible. I think things have changed. One of the ideas I really like is taking beginners out on keel boats, a very safe working environment. And the keel boats in Castle Cove, certainly the programme's gone from strength to strength. And the traditional way, just sailing with an experienced member of the club in a dinghy. You go out in a 2-man dinghy, and I see some classes are especially good where they've got fathers and daughters, mothers and sons, uncles and nephews sailing together. And I think learning to sail with an experienced person is a really good way of making the absolute most. For those of you who like me to live dangerously, I'm going to keep well away from the foliage in the background. Those guys working really hard. And this club, I said, brings a lot of fond memories to me. We do need to accept some things have changed. Just walking around the boat park here, we're long gone are the days of those beautiful wooden boats. You don't see them out very much because I think now we live in a very time poor society. It's much harder to get brownie points to go sailing for some people. I'm lucky who has a wife who sails, who's very happy to spend time away from me and me to do championships. But those really time intensive parts of the sport have gradually gone. I said I walk around the boat park, very few wooden boats. We've got a fantastic place in Lyme Regis near me where people learn to build boats. But if you are talking about accessibility for the sport, people just don't want to be in the situation where they have to build their boat before they can go sailing, however much money it's going to save them. And I was actually looking at getting into radial control boats, the various injuries I've had. I said one of the big rests I had was the shoulder, because it's really easy to look at that supraspinatus injury in a laser, or I should say an Ilka. Anything where you end up with a high elbow, it's really bad news. And I think one of the testings I'm going to be doing these days is with slightly different, newer kickers. And that means just trying to protect the injury and keep sailing for as long as possible. Now, what I would say is I really love those golden days of the wooden boats. And I think I probably joined at what was perhaps the golden age of sailing, but we need to appreciate things move on. And we need to realise that the way we promote the sport has to change, because if what we used to do was still working, then we wouldn't need to change anything. So we look at, for example, the Sail GP or whatever, and it's very clear just from the viewing figures that sailing is very Europe-centred, and we need to sort of embrace the situation as it is rather than thinking about wishful thinking. But for me, just to come here and to see all the young sailors at Loughborough carrying on as something that started 25 years ago, oh God, makes me warm and fuzzy inside. Now it's time for me to go and do some ILCA coaching. If you look over there, I can see most of my sailors are already on the water, so it's time to go. If you haven't done so already, please like and share the feed, and comments are always very welcome. I'd be interested to know what other topics you would like me to cover in 2025.
I don't know what drinking game they've got going on, but there are a lot of comments behind the scenes. And of course, the betting was that he would be clean shaven or bearded. Mm-hmm. You happy to see him clean shaven, Claire? Or, yeah, I think you're muted, Claire. Yeah, you're muted.
Oh, sorry.
You happy to see him clean shaven?
I am. I have to admit, I am not a big fan of facial hair.
You and Julia both.
Yeah, me neither.
No.
John Emmett. John Emmett, get to the front of the fleet with John Emmett Sailing, our regular videographer. And it was interesting because I don't know who was shooting that. He wasn't doing that with his selfie stick.
No.
He had a camera op with him for that one. Very well done. Let's check in, shall we, on the Vendée Globe. Claire, put your hand up if you want to say something. Stop me. Otherwise, I'm just going to carry on here, and I'll nip back to you from time to time. But we got the Vendée Globe to check in. Just a brief update here on day, 75. And nearly half the fleet has finished now. Biotherm on Friday, Paul Mealhat's boat, finished 5th. So that's the top 5 after Paul finished. Charlie, Jan, Sebastian, and Jeremy Bayou, we talked about on Friday's show, and now Paul. They have all finished. 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 have also finished. Clarice Kramer coming up in 11th. Well, let's talk about Nicholas Lundvin, Thomas Rouillant, Justine Matreau, the Swiss lady who's finished 8th, the first female finisher. Sam Goodchild from the UK in 9th, and Benjamin Dutroux in 10th. They have all finished, as have Clarice. And Boris is about to finish. He's now the leader, hence distance the leader of 0 nautical miles over there on the right. Samantha Davies in 13th is about 78, almost 80 miles behind him. And then look at the distance to Romain Atanasio, 1,100, almost 1,200 miles back. And then we've been following Conrad Coleman as well, who is in 15th. And he is well back even further. He's 1,700. He's the first of the non-foilers. That's what that little foiling check mark here, those are foilers, the most modern boats. And Conrad's sailing one of the older boats. He is 1,700 nautical miles back. So a third of the fleet have finished by now. I guess I should say not half. And the arrival of Boris and Sam are expected on Wednesday evening, so tomorrow evening. In the meantime, Justine Matreau, as we said, has finished. Bravo Zulu to her. She finished on Saturday. She said upon finishing, and was asked by the Vendée Globe for the website, "You are the first woman to finish this 10th edition. What does it represent for you?" It's a long interview. I commend it to you, but this was perhaps the most interesting question. She said, quote, "There is no separate ranking for the Vendée Globe. It just has a media value and a symbolic value. It's good for my sponsors because it will create more publicity about the project. More important is that for the first time, there were 6 women with competitive projects at the start of this Vendée Globe. I'm thinking about Sam Davies, who is not far behind and has fought a lot, and Pip Hare, who we can all cheer because she's here. She's doing the weather, some of the weather forecasts now, and will come back to do the next race." So bravo Zulu to all of the women, but particularly to the first to finish. And here is that finish 3 days ago.
un truc de malade. C'était pas fait exprès, mais on arrive en samedi après-midi. Du coup, c'est vrai que c'était impressionnant le monde qu'il y avait dans tout le chenal. Super atmosphère. Ça fait super plaisir. Moi, j'ai vraiment eu du plaisir jusqu'au Cap Horn. Après, c'est vrai qu'on a eu une remontée de l'Atlantique vraiment assez dure, même jusqu'à la fin, même là encore aujourd'hui. Mais voilà, c'est une belle satisfaction d'avoir réussi à faire ça. Ça a été intense. Après, voilà, il y a eu aussi des occasions où j'ai réussi à revenir parce que la météo le permettait. Donc ça fait aussi partie du jeu. Mais c'est vrai que c'est chouette de pouvoir finir aussi proche du paquet qui était avec moi et puis d'avoir pu jouer avec eux tout au long.
Nice piece, nice bit from the Vendée Globe there. It's like
Right.
commercials here on TV. They get louder. When you get to the end there, it gets loud. Fabulous stuff. Cole, now I'm calling you Cole. I was calling her Claire. Do you know? She seems like another Justine
Cool.
Metro. Sounds like another cool personality a la Cole Brauer. Do you know her at all, Claire?
I met her, but we had a presentation a year or more ago. I'm trying to remember exactly when that was at New York Yacht Club, 44th Street. A number of the Vendée Globe sailors were there to do a presentation, including Boris Herman, and it was a great event. And the English was a little tough, but they got their message across. And honestly, I'm not a big fan of participation prizes, but in this case, this race is just extraordinary. I think everyone who actually does this race and finishes
Yeah.
deserves a huge
Absolutely.
laurel. Yeah, great
Yes.
stuff. Really great stuff. And obviously the people there are supporting every finisher, which is great to see.
Mm.
Sometimes the interest drops off after the first guy's finished, but that's really extraordinary.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gordon Smith agrees with you. He says, I love the welcome home for all the competitors. Respect given. Nice stuff. And the question has been, there's been a huge storm, and Stingray up in Seattle was asking whether they could finish, or we've seen the news reports of them diverting. What actually happened is that they crossed the finish line outside of Les Sables d'Olonne, but rather than trying to get into the harbor, some of the teams diverted and went to La Rochelle, or
Yeah.
I think La Rochelle mostly, but could have been other places to avoid having to go into that harbor in Les Sables d'Olonne in the really tough conditions. And Blake Middleton is agreeing with you, Claire. It is just finishing. I mean, same for Cole Brauer. I mean, the fact that she finished second
Yeah.
in that, it was a competitive race. It was the first one and of this global solo challenge. But again, bravo Zulu. In a small boat. I mean, in a smaller boat that is not really proven. And you're a big boat sailor. Both of you have done a lot. Both Julia and you both done a lot of big boat sailing. Can you imagine going around the world in a 40-footer like Cole
No.
Brauer did?
No.
Huh?
No, but I did a lot of distance sailing in a 40-footer, but not around the world.
You've got a somewhat bigger boat, Madam Vice Commodore.
I do. As long as I can have my hair dryer and air conditioning. Yeah, I'm rather spoiled. So, but
Yeah.
it's great. I mean,
It's supposed to be.
sailing is sailing, right? And
Yeah.
it's being out in the elements, and no matter what, is just so it's cathartic.
And again, to go back to Cole Brauer, you just have to admire her for her. It's kind of, yeah, okay, it's another day. We're out on the water. It's 20 to 30. We've got 3-meter seas. We got 5-meter seas. Oh, that boat. Claire, Vice Commodore Harrington, that boat looked like as I said it, she looked like she was sitting at her desk.
Right.
Alistair
Huh?
Murray asked the question. Were you surprised by that?
Yeah, she did mention she had everything sort of lashed down. She didn't want things moving around and while she was on camera, which I think probably would have added to the charm. But when she said they were in, what did she say? They were in 20 knots, 22
20
knots.
plus.
I because I asked her if she had gotten through those big seas, and I'm not in the center here, am I? She had gotten through those big seas, and I thought it had calmed down, but she acted like it was nothing. It was really good for her.
Back
Very
on Justine Metro for a moment, Magnus the Magnificent has chimed in here with an excellent comment. Metro family, the Swiss family, is amazing. Justine in the Vendée, Brian in the AC. He must have been with the Swiss team, I guess, with Ernesto Bertorelli's team. I don't know that, but I assume Magnus will probably confirm which team he was with. With which, Julia?
Yes.
I got to correct my grammar. I'll get a finger wag from Julia. So Justine in the Vendée, Brian in the AC, Lorraine and Eloise James in the women's AC. Them presumably were also sailing for the Swiss team. Did you meet any of those ladies in Barcelona, or the gentleman, Brian Metro? Do you remember?
Are you talking about the Magenta Project people?
No, apparently the Metro family, according to Magnus.
Mm-mm.
And we won't tease Magnus about missing your breakfast the other morning, will we?
Oh, yes, you can.
You go ahead. You tease him.
All right. So, Magnus, I saved 2 seats for you at the dining room in the 44th Street New York Yacht Club clubhouse. And it was rather embarrassing because everyone wanted to sit with me. But I said, oh, no, these 2 seats are saved.
For Magnus and his wife.
Yes. I ended up sitting by myself.
Did he go down to the Blue Bar? Did he go down to the Algonquin Hotel and after your session there was done, or was he just jet lagged and missed breakfast?
Oh, he was jet lagged. He was completely. He slept through. Yeah.
Well, I give him credit because that whole trip to New York and back, he was posting. I mean, the guy's prolific. He writes this stuff. He wrote another one. He wrote 2 the other day, and he wrote another one today. And it's, Julie, you like his prose. I thought he was a little off base today, but none of us is perfect.
I haven't read today's yet.
Well, you got to get to it. Any questions otherwise or comments about Magnus?
Well, he did a spectacular job. He really did. We had a leadership retreat forum, whatever you want to call it, of the trustees and the major committee chairman at New York Yacht Club to discuss the next 40 years or so of where we'll be in 2044, 80 years after having lost the cup in 1983. And so, what our future looks like. And he and I discussed it over the course of the last couple of weeks, how we were going to handle this. And, he's just brilliant. I'm a big fan, as you know, and he has such a good finger on the pulse of what's going on in sailing around the world, which is what we wanted to hear about. And I said, we want to hear all the good things, but we want to hear the bad things too, and what kinds of things we need to pay attention to. And it was significant. And happily for him, he made some good contacts there, and hopefully maybe make some inroads in the Paralympic field for him. And we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
We're working hard on that Paralympic thing. John Emmett's putting a panel together, and we're having a bit of a struggle with World Sailing and their staff. But we'll more on that. But Stingray is saying that Magnus effused admiration, if that's is that a proper use of the word effused, Julia? He effused admiration for Claire in the radio segment from yesterday on Ben Ainsley's podcast.
Oh my!
Apparently.
Wow.
So Magnus is also a fan of yours. He's on here, so we can't say anything too bad about him, or too nice about him, because he's on here watching, and he'll. In any event, he wrote about rats and rats jumping the ship today. We'll get to that in a moment.
Is that how he was referring to me?
No, I don't think so. I think he's probably referring to people he thinks are going to jump ship from one British team or the other. Well, let's look now, because we've had John Emmett's report. We are also very fortunate today, Julia, to have one of your favorites, an AAAA from Mr. President Emeritus of Australian Sailing, Alistair Murray, and Magnus Wheatley saying, I'm listening. Well, listen here to Alistair's awesome Aussie anecdote for today, and it's not a video until the end. It's actually, and if you all want to submit things like this, you don't have to do a fancy video like John's or like Alistair and some others. Gordon Smith has done one or two for us. But if you just want to send some cool photos of what's going on in and around your neck of the woods, we appreciate it. And these came from Alistair a couple days ago, from last week's or 10 days ago, the 2025 Etchells World Championship at the Royal Brighton Yacht Club in Victoria, outside of Melbourne there. And he was in attendance, of course, as were some, he called it a rogues gallery, but it was a fabulous group of sailors, as the Etchells class often gathers together. And it came right down to the wire between Graham Taylor, who's an Australian who had won it last year, and the super sailor from New Orleans originally, John Dane III, long time friend of mine. And the two of them had a match race in the final race to see who was going to win. And Graham Taylor and co came back out and won that final race. And with James Mayo, who was also with him when he won last year, they've done a repeat. They signed up Ben Lamb to join them, Bravo Zulu, to the 2025 Etchells World Champions, Aussies Graham Taylor, James Mayo, and Ben Lamb. Well, Alistair at the prize giving, of course, was there in full flight, and he linked up not only with Graham Taylor, who is this now twice, maybe more than twice. I can't remember if he's just won it twice or more, but he's won last year and this year. Bravo Zulu to him. Now let's test the ladies and see if Julia or Claire know who this esteemed sailor is.
Oh, gosh, I don't think I do.
He looks very-
Mateusz Kuzniewicz, the Polish multiple star world champ, ahead of the Star Sailors League, and he's won a bunch of other stuff, match racing. And
know his name.
Superb sailor from Poland. Julia, you'll recognize this guy. We've had him at St. Francis. He lived here for a while when he was head of our Olympic program before U.S. Sailing eased him.
Yes.
Yeah, Magnus knew immediately that was Mateusz Kuzniewicz. This, of course, is Malcolm Page, twice 470 Olympic gold medalist, once as a crew and once as a skipper. He was there, and then he was joined in this next picture by none other than Raza and John Bertrand, dear old friends of mine, and I'm sure Claire's. And on the right is a gentleman I don't know, Mark Thornborough, who is, I guess, a Brit. I'm not sure, but he lives in Hong Kong. He's a member of the Royal Hong Kong Yacht Club, and also a very keen and top Etchells sailor. He's won various Etchells championships here, there, and everywhere. Now, here are two of the I had to check with John Emmett to see if he knew the proper pronunciation of Emma. Emma Placher, I guess it's a French name. How would you say that in French? Placher? Do you know, Julia?
Yeah, I think that's a good one.
Placher? Is it, you know, Claire?
I would guess Placher.
Placher. Emma is Matty Weirn's wife. Matt on the right is the twice ILCA Olympic gold. He just won in Marseille again. You talk about ILCA or laser royalty. John Emmett knows them both well. And I just love this. I mean, you see people who are cool people, great sailors, all gathered together at the prize giving. And the old story that Paul Henderson used to say, you know, we were going to go off. Somebody said, hey, let's go off and go to the, we'll go to the bar. We'll go to the restaurant instead of staying here for the prize giving. And none other than Ted Turner and Paul Henderson, the past president of World Sailing and beyond up in Canada, Royal Canadian Yacht Club, said, Ted always said, no, we're going to stay here and celebrate and promote the winners. That's the proper thing to do. I mean, how would you feel if you won this event and half the people pissed off to go have a cocktail or a meal? So I really love that. And this group does that. And Alistair is there, in this case, with a gentleman I know, I haven't seen him in a long time, the 470 bronze medalist from Montreal in 1976, Ian Brown. Another very cool guy. And Andrew Dolly DeVola, by the way, speaking of cool guys who's our age, Claire, this guy, Dolly DeVola, has just won or on the podium for another windsurfer worlds or windsurfer.
Oh, good for him.
He's just a fabulous guy, and he watches the show regularly. And he's saying, Ian Brown, my inspiration, mentor, coach, great man, I mean, you just look at the quality of these people. Julia, one of your boyfriends
Oh, yes.
here from St. Francis Yacht Club, the fabulous John Kostecki, the only person in the sport who's won an Olympic medal, round the world race, and
Star World.
the America's Cup. And
Mhm.
now, and also the Star Worlds. Dennis Conner has not won the round the world race, but he's won all that stuff and more. But John Kostecki, our good friend JK,
Mm-hmm.
and a San Diegan friend of mine from many, many years. Do you know Billy Hardesty, Claire?
I don't.
You
I know
next
the
time you
name.
get the chance, this guy is a super sailor, very low key, laid back, and by the way, a bit of a musician.
Wow.
I kid you not. He's a ukulele player and plays it pretty darn well. San Diego Yacht Club, 12 times world champ in various classes. Billy Hardesty, who was crewing for, I think, John Dane, but he was right up there in the top. And then Alistair grabbed this picture of Jean-Claude Strong, who is I believe, I don't know her, but I believe she's a member of the Royal Sydney Yacht Squadron. She finished third overall, to say nothing of being the top female helm in the Etchells Worlds and an Etchells perennial top dog, top finisher with her crew. And then this really fantastic photo at the prize giving. That's Martin Hill next to Alistair on the left. He is the one who came up with the idea and has been promoting having a Corinthian trophy, a Corinthian champion at the Etchells Worlds, which I think is an important feature of any event these days. And not only did these kids win the Corinthian winners, but that's Jack Abbott and his team. They won both the Corinthian and the youth. They were the top youth team, which is under, tell me what, 25, 23, I'm not sure what. But another nice picture grabbed by Alistair. Do you like Corinthian awards? Are you in favor of them, Claire?
Absolutely. No, I think that's an important feature. And especially in the, when you think about how competitive the Etchells class is, and it is all pro'd up, as we know, to have a Corinthian award, I think is really special.
Julia?
I agree.
It is cool stuff. And a youth award and, Masters awards. I think John Dane won one of the Masters because he's my age-ish, maybe a couple of years older than he, maybe 75, in fact. John Dane the third, cool guy. The Utes, Clark Chapin is saying. Yep, there they are, the Utes. And then on top of all that, Alistair he's now taking a break. He's gone off because he needed to Alistair. He's got to rejuvenate. He's got to relax. And he went off, as he does every year at this time, with some friends. And they go basically camping. But have a look at this video.
G'day, Tom, Julia, and all the Fosey. Greetings from Australia, the day before Australia Day. I'm going to do a John Emmett style walk through the Australian outback here, and just to talk to you perhaps about the need to find a place to decompress and relax every year. And this is my favourite spot here. For 25 years I've been coming to a mate's place at a town called Wanboyne, which is on the east coast of Australia. It's miles from nowhere. That's where I am now. I really enjoy it. We do bike riding, we go bushwalking. We get as far from sailing as we can once a year. The bush here is very wild. It's inaccessible. I have to walk 20 minutes or 25 minutes out of here to even find somewhere that's got any reception to be able to be in contact with anybody. I'm heading that way now. There's a good chance here as we're walking that we'll see kangaroos, goannas, which are very large Australian lizards, echidnas, which is like a little porcupine. We have wombats, kangaroos, you name it, and lots of snakes. So it can be a pretty wild place. As I said, it's a long way from anywhere. It's on the coast. We go boating and power boating. We go stand-up paddleboarding, kayaking, swimming, bike riding. Like I said, we get as far from sailing as we can. There's plenty going on right now. I know back in the sailing world, I'm missing Sailing Illustrated tomorrow morning when there'll be a lot of discussion, obviously, about Ben Ainsley and in Ineos. That'll be fascinating to follow. Here in Australia, we've had a lot of championships and events over the Christmas period with nationals and obviously the Sydney Hobart race. We've got a very large regatta coming up at the end of, well, in a few days. It's the Australia Day weekend at Geelong. Geelong Race Week, and it's the largest keelboat regatta in Australia. They get 300 or 400 keelboats out racing in it. It's a very major event, so I won't be there for that, but we're looking forward to seeing the results. Got the Australian Open tennis on, which is good fun viewing in the evening. We're drinking some fine wines. We're having a great time. Bit of a lull in the sailing. We get back into our state championship period in the next few weeks. Around March long weekend, which is early March, we have a lot of state titles and other things going on. So I'll have plenty of news here from Australia in the time to come, but I thought I'd just talk to you on this walk about the need to decompress, get away, have some fun, relax with friends, and forget all about sailing. Cheers, folks. I'll see you probably in about a week when I'm back in contact with everybody via the internet, which is not available to me right now. See you guys. Bye.
Did you look at all the comments, Julia?
Absolutely.
They think he's Crocodile Alistair or Crocodile Murray.
Yeah, it reminds me of the early days in Australia, and
No corks hanging from the hat.
no, that was a really white hat.
That's not a knife, Fishbeck says. Alistair, is that a bear bell? They're wondering what that little tinkle was in the background. Alistair Murray. Well, he sent some pictures too, Julia. You want to see them?
Sure.
Look at that.
Ooh.
And look at, he's saying, I thought you might like these photos, Tom, Julia, and the gang, of some Australian bird life in front of our tent at my getaway at, did he say, he said it so fast I didn't get it, Wanboyne.
Yeah.
Wherever he is he said Australia's east coast. And look at this.
Oh, yes.
Fabulous wildlife. But you just stay clear of the snakes and the spiders, right, Claire?
Oh, Lord.
Have
Yeah.
you spent any time in Oz? Have you been down there a lot?
I have not. I've never been to Australia.
Mhm.
Need to go.
The 85, 6, 7, that whole period,
Mhm.
leading up to the 87 America's Cup in Perth, most of us had, most of us, Americans, but I think beyond Kiwis, beside Kiwis, but Aussies, Brits, the Aussies welcomed all of us, the Brits, the Americans, the Canadians, whoever else. Most of us had not been there. And remember the Crocodile Dundee advertising came along after that, and Australia really opened and pushed hard for their tourism thing. And what a fabulous event that was. It was almost too bad that Royal Perth Yacht Club lost it the first time they hosted it in 87, because most people would agree, those of us who were there would say it was the best America's Cup ever. It was fun.
Yes,
the weather
everybody
was
who
nice.
was there says so. Yeah.
It was bright sunshine. It was windy. For most of the time, the Fremantle Doctor, and of course, in this country, ESPN covered it live at night. It was in the middle of our night, but people stayed up and watched it, and then talked about it around the water cooler the next day.
Yeah.
And that's how you knew that it was making an impact, like, apropos Cole Brauer, because non-sailors would go to the office the next morning and say, hey, what was that I saw on ESPN last night at, 11 o'clock here on the West Coast, 2 in the morning on the East? I stayed up for that, and bleary-eyed, and people would say, yeah, and people who were sailors around the office water cooler would say, beat their chest, yes, that's our sport. That's what we do, proudly. And not so much now with the current America's Cup, because we don't do it. And that's why I think it's hard for people to relate to it.
That
Claire?
was one of the things, good and brilliant things about the Australian American Cup, which was run
The 6 meters.
6 meters.
Yeah.
That it changed its venues every other time, every year and a half. We were in.
It went to Europe too sometimes, didn't it? Just not back and forth between Australia and the States?
No, the 6 meters raced all over. But
this was the particular Australian American Cup that was raced in sixes. Claire, any thoughts on all that before we move on?
No, it's all good stuff. I mean, the water cooler chatter, you're right. It's not a thing so much anymore. We just don't. It's not on our radar in this country anyway. Not so much. People don't follow it. I think maybe the blow up in '83 probably put the cup in general on more people's radar.
Exactly.
And so that's maybe why they were more engaged in 87 and beyond, but not so much lately.
Yeah, well said. And the combination of the two of 83, because everybody did when it after 132 years, when people say, "Oh, New York might lose it. This is really going to be interesting," and then people did tune in, and then of course the whole beautiful new scenery, the set piece of WA, which was even that many. Okay, I don't want to get too carried away here, but even a lot of Australians had not been out to WA, to Western Australia, to Perth and Freo, which was a little bit not quite like the Wild Wild West here in the the gold rush days,
Yeah.
but it was it was new and fresh.
Yeah.
And then of course the comeback by DC, Dennis's comeback, that also got even more attention. And it's part of the reason why 88 was too bad we had the Deed of Gift match, but there was that was the Como off Point Loma. Not many people watched after that.
Yeah.
Although 92 was a pretty good event in San Diego, as was 95, and we had the IACC boats and people watched. But Clay Embley says, yes, the greatest cup ever, 86, 87. Chris Fury says, how much can a koala bear?
That was fun for the beginnings of the time between the Royal Prince Alfred and St. Francis. But we had stayed in a house close to the yacht club, and we had our own koalas.
Well, for sure. By the way, Pedro Foiling Sailor is saying they are bellbirds. I'd never heard of bellbirds. You learn something new on Sailing Illustrated.
They
every
sound
show.
like bells.
They make that annoying noise. Only in Australia would say it. They make that annoying noise. How much can I? Okay. They are called bellbirds. That was what we were hearing. Barcelona 24, Magnus is saying, was even better than Perth 87. Okay. Okay, I'm not going to get in an argument with Magnus about that. But
remind me which cup it was where Carmen, what was her name? The judge.
Carmen Beauchamp Saperic, whom you met the other
I
day.
did. I met her on Thursday evening. Yes, Thursday evening of last week.
And Julia Claire pinged me, and she said, you wouldn't happen to know somebody named Carmen Beauchamp, Carmen Saperic. She didn't know her middle name. And I said, oh, you mean Carmen Beauchamp Saperic? She said, how'd you know that? Well, she was the presiding judge in the New York Supreme Court, which is the trial court. It sounds like it's the top court, but in New York State, they had Supreme Courts, which were the local, like we'd say the Superior Court or the Circuit Court in Michigan. It's the trial court because they didn't have higher courts. It was the Supreme Court. And they've got them all over the state of New York, and that at 60 Center Street in New York City is where the America's Cup has been adjudicated, including in 1988. She was the trial judge who ruled in favor in that first level. She ruled in favor of the Kiwis and took the cup away from, remember that?
Yeah.
San Diego Yacht Club, and gave it to New York. By the way, did you know this, Claire? Your club took custody of the cup in escrow until this got sorted out because everybody knew it was going to be appealed. And
her decision was overruled, right?
Yes. Then the cup went to a bank vault, that bank that used to be down at the corner of 44th and 5th. Did you know that? There was a bank down there. Yeah, there was.
You mean next to Brooks Brothers?
Well, Brooks Brothers was over on Madison, but down there at the corner of 44th and 5th, and what would be the northwest corner of that of that intersection. And the cup was there in a vault for a while, and then her decision got appealed and thankfully was overturned at the appellate level. And then that overturn was confirmed it finally went to Albany to the State Court of Appeals. So yes, then she's I believe Hispanic, and she's celebrated for having been one of the early Hispanic judges in the New York court system. She was put on the State Court of Appeals in Albany, and she was on that court when the second deed of gift court action after the 2010 match made its way through the New York courts and all the way to the Court of Appeals and State Court of Appeals in Albany. So she ruled on that as well and did the right thing. In that case, she ruled in favor of Golden Gate Yacht Club in 2010.
Interesting. Well, she was lovely. She really was. And she was very anxious to talk to me because she apparently is moving or packing up her apartment, and she has all her notes, all her documents, all the journals, everything that went along with that with that court case, and she wants me to have them. So she's
Probably both court cases, probably 88 and
Probably.
2010. So it's
Yep.
cool that you met her. And
Yes.
by all accounts, a very, very esteemed judicial brain.
Mhm.
And as I said, one of the top Hispanics in the court system, early Hispanics. And so Tom is a walking encyclopedia. No, I'm Stingray. I'm just old.
Yes.
I'm just old.
But you remember it too.
Well, but it's cool that Cole, I'm going to call you, that Claire met her and now has this connection, and that Justice Saparic is going to give you all her records.
Mhm.
That is cool.
Mhm.
And Magnus now wants to come back to New York. He'll make your
Of course.
breakfast if you invite him back, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
He wants to read those papers.
Yeah.
I'm sure he does.
Okay.
There's a book in there, Magnus.
There
There's a book in there.
Or two.
Or two, exactly. Okay, well, that bird, we got to give the outro for the esteemed past president. Alistair's awesome Aussie anecdote. The AAAA. Might even call it the AAA, the triple A.
Yeah.
Or you could even shorten it further, Julia, and call it the AA for Alcoholics Anonymous. Not that Alistair's a big drinker, but he does always mention his wine
Well,
in his
George's one.
AAA. Yeah, Clark Chapin's made a pithy comment. Okay, about time to wrap this up. We said we'd review what's going on in the pissing contest between the Knights and the capsize of Ineos Britannia, although maybe they are prevailing. Magnus is on here. He knows a lot about what's going on. Claire does, but they're both sworn to secrecy. And I have not even asked them because I know they're not going to tell me anything that they know. So I have to check with my other sources.
Mhm.
And as we told you the other day, Ainsley's firing, and he was fired, sparks a civil war between two now seriously flawed British teams. And Ben is so very popular, and most of the people, including probably a lot of the Fozy who are British and beyond, are all kind of falling in behind Ben and took issue with my saying, mind the golden rule when we did this on Friday's show. But for those of you who didn't really catch all this and are concerned about what's going on, this is one of the two Knights. This is Sir Jim Ratcliffe, Sir James, who is the owner of Ineos. He's the CEO of this big British company known as Ineos. And he announced on Thursday, to the utter astonishment of just about everybody, that Ineos will enter a challenge for the 38th America's Cup under the team name Ineos Britannia, which of course had been Sir Ben's team last time, of which he was CEO and the team principal. And that he would be doing this after parting ways. This is a quote from the Ineos press release, after parting ways with Sir Ben Ainsley, unquote, in their official statement. Quote, unfortunately, Ineos Britannia and Sir Ben could not find agreement on terms to move forward following the conclusion of 37th America's Cup in Barcelona. And both sides have been famously circumspect since then about whether the inability to find terms were because Ben wanted to stay on the boat and Sir Jim wanted him off the boat, or something else, like who was going to lead it as CEO. Was Ben not going to be the CEO?
And where was the money coming from?
And I think that is the issue here ultimately. But was it because Ben wanted to stay as CEO? Not necessarily the sailing CEO. We don't know yet. At least I don't know. I've heard rumors. Claire has heard rumors. Magnus the Magnificent has heard rumors and posted again today about it and about the rats jumping the ship, meaning from one side or the other. Yeah. Gordon Smith says he's not taking sides. The AC is a very particular bet between people who choose to spend their money to win. It is not a simple situation. Stingray's asking any chance they could not agree on terms to negotiate with the RNZ, and ETNZ DBA is the challenger of record. Yeah, maybe, but I think it's more basic than that, Stingray. So Sir Ben, for his side, came back almost immediately with a press release that said, the British challenge for the 38th America's Cup, led by Sir Ben Ainsley, was astounded to read today's statement from Ineos and Mercedes F1 regarding their planned challenge for the 38th America's Cup. said Ainsley's team, whatever that is, in an official release. NB Ainsley has the Athena Racing sailing team now, and he's since announced that. This plan raises significant legal and practical obstacles for them, meaning Sir Jim, for them that will play out in the coming days and weeks. Furthermore, Sir Ben Ainsley's British America's Cup team will be known as Athena Racing going forwards, aligning with the British Women's and Youth America's Cup team and the Athena pathway. And almost immediately thereafter, the Royal Yacht Squadron, who is the challenging club and the AC-38 challenger of record, recognized Sir Ben's team as their challenging team. Yes. So if that wasn't clear from our discussion on Friday, just to recuperate, but Ben was astounded, which I found a bit surprising because I have been telling you all on here for weeks that things were not good in GBR America's Cup land. I'll come to you in a sec, Claire. What are the other words for astounded I posted on my Facebook page the other day? Astonished, amazed, stunned, surprised, flabbergasted, stupefied, thunderstruck, dumbfounded, shocked, and dazed, to name a few. And then I posted this the other day on my Facebook page, and of course, most of you recognize that as the Royal Yacht Squadron in Cowes, which is led, at least in their America's Cup effort, by Chairman Bertie Bickett, whom Claire knows well, and I have gotten to know not as well as Claire. And finally, there's a lot of speculation as to where this gentleman on the left, whether he is the heir apparent, whether he will stay or go with Ineos or stay with Ben, and that, of course, is the co-helm from AC-37, Ben's co-helm, Dylan Fletcher, who is now helming Sir Ben's Emirates GBR Sail GP team.
Oh, that's
Claire.
right.
Yeah. Claire, over to you.
I have it on reasonably good authority that statement about being the statement being astounded is specious.
Well, that's what they released. I was surprised too. I totally agree with you.
It was written by, well, that's as far as I'll go.
Okay. Well, I as I've been saying on here for weeks, in fact, I'll go back, just not to pat myself on the back, but I said months ago that Sir Ben should get off the boat. That may have been part of the issue. And I'm not trying to get you to comment on this, Claire, because you're in a delicate position as one of the potential AC-38 challengers. But that's where it stands. I don't know if Magnus wants to add to any of this. He's also in a bit of a delicate position, but he does indeed know a lot about what's going on, as do some of you in the comments. You forgot gobsmacked, Clayton, what do you say? So we'll say we're going to focus on some other things. John Emmett's putting together a panel on parasailing and how are we going to get parasailing back in the Olympics. But it was better times when these happier times in Barcelona when Claire was there, the Sirs, Ben and Jim during AC-37. But I'll conclude this segment unless any of you have further comments, Julia, Claire, or anyone else. The golden rule, I've been in this game for a long time, almost 45 years, since 1980 in one capacity or another, won it a few times, lost it a few times. And I've been in this movie, and I have never seen any rule other than the golden rule apply. He who has the gold makes the rules. So if Ben can come up with a big backer and substantial backing, I think he's going to be great. He's going to be fine. If he can't, I think any allegiances people think they have to Sir Ben, people need to feed their families. People need to eat. People need to have their future for the not just next couple months. You know, I'm sure they've got some. Magnus, I'm going to digress. Magnus reported here that during the Cup, a memo went out to the team, to Ben's team, saying, you know, your contracts are expiring here at the end of this, and you'll have X many weeks of some kind of pay after this is all over. But having been through this myself many, many times, you know, sometimes you get 2 weeks of severance, sometimes you get 2 months of severance. If you win, sometimes you get 6 months or more of severance, but it's still severance. And your brain at the end of these campaigns, one of the toughest things about these campaigns, and that's why they're called campaigns. They're like political campaigns. You have a primary
get
competition to say again, Julia?
Have to get wound and unwound.
Well, you have to, first of all, win the primary. You have to win the right to be in the general election, the
Right.
final. And if you win that right, then you have to win the final. And then if you win the final, you're still not sure if you got a job afterwards when you're DBA, when you're doing business as the defender.
Yep.
So it's a tough business, and I feel really sorry for everybody on both sides of this fence. But also remember, you got these other teams who are all more or less in the same boat, with the possible exception of ETNZ, who know that they are the defender. They're back in the game again, and most of them presumably will have jobs. Some already have jobs, but even the defender has a down period when, the money's not coming in. Hopefully you've saved up. Hopefully you've been well paid and you've saved up a lot of money so you can sustain yourself and your family between cups.
How many years?
And if the big fear for everybody is, if this goes into litigation, if it goes into court and the Challenger record falls apart, and this thing goes into the gurgler for a while, then you never know. Because in 1988 and in 2010, everybody said, it'll be 6 months, maybe 8 months. We can outlast. Well, it was 2 years in both cases. And hopefully, we're all hoping it will not be a repeat of that. Ed Worley's asking, what are the rumors about an internal coup against Ben by the sailors? I think they're strictly rumors. I don't think that's true. Some people are saying Daniel Gruen is on here. He's saying that David Endine, who's the Kiwi, who was the COO, who has now been elevated by Sir Jim Ratcliffe, he's been elevated as the CEO. Some are saying he attempted a coup or achieved a coup. Some would say that's just sharp elbows. Some would say it's opportunistic. I mean, Sir Jim may have come to him and said, okay, look, we're going to ease Ben. I want you to be the CEO. If you're David Endine, what are you going to say? You're going to say,
I don't think I want to.
Yeah, right. So I went through, Claire, our club's campaign in 1986, 87, and a prominent feature of that campaign was when John Coleus quit. About 2 of the 3 years through that campaign, and immediately American John Bertrand saw his chance to get his hands on the wheel. We all go like this. That's an America's Cup term of art. When you're getting your hands on the wheel and trying to get control. And then the Texans came back in, the money guys, again, the golden rule, the money guys came back in to the America 2 Challenge. I was the executive director of that challenge, Claire, as you well know. Julia, you remember.
Yes.
And the Texans came back and said, we're going to pull our money out of the campaign if Coleus is not back on the wheel. And a week later, Coleus was back on the wheel, and the New York Yacht Club leadership was not amused because they wanted John out for a number of reasons. But John came back, sailed well in the first round robin, and then we didn't sail so well in the second and third, and ended up not making the semifinals in January of 86. Claire, Julia, I assert once again, never lose track of the golden rule and he or she who has the gold.
Yes.
Julia, do you want to comment?
No, and anybody who's been through that once or twice or 17 times knows that it's all consuming.
Claire?
Noted.
Okay.
So noted.
Okay. Enough of all that. That's the latest. That's what's going on. In fact, there's hardly anything new there that we didn't report on Friday. Maybe some nuance, but I stand by my assertion from Friday. The golden rule. Man, was that fun to have Cole Brauer on the show
Yes,
today.
I told you, she just made my everyday happier when I was following her. Yeah.
It was. And I want to thank you again, Madam Vice Commodore, for teeing that up. That was just really
Indeed.
cool. And
Happy to do it.
much
happy to-
appreciated. What happened on this day, Commodores, ladies and gentlemen, this day in history, on the 28th of January, 1915. Apropos sailing, apropos everything we do, at least in this country, in the sport. Here's your first clue. Circa 1791. That looks surprisingly like the yacht America
It
because
does.
it is a cutter, not the low black schooner, but that is the U.S. Revenue Cutter, Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Massachusetts #2. They weren't quite sure on Wikipedia. Circa 1791. But they're all already coming in with the answer. Tom Fishbeck says the Coasties, the U.S. Coast Guard. Clayton Embley knows that, the birth of the current U.S. Coast Guard. Blake Middleton, U.S. Congress creates the United States Coast Guard as a branch of the U.S. Armed Forces. Chris Feary saying, excellent show. Stingray saying, Gary Jobson did his first broadcast. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. No, Gary's not that. He's only a couple years older than we are, Claire.
That's
Was
right.
a revenue cutter, a small sailing vessel steered by a tiller with a low freeboard, a lot like the low black schooner, the yacht America, which was also originally steered by a tiller. A lot of people don't realize that. That tiller's in the lobby of your 44th Street clubhouse, Claire.
It's there. It is there indeed. I'll bet that boat had a heck of a weather helm. Holy
Indeed.
Can you imagine?
Indeed. A light draft, it was lightly armed and usually rigged as a topsail schooner, and they were going around enforcing, who was the first Secretary of the Treasury, ladies, for extra credit?
Hamilton.
Alexander Hamilton, who came up with the idea of having tariffs, back in the news again here in the States, tariffs,
Yes.
and there was no income tax because the tariffs supported the federal government.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't need an income tax, right?
Right.
Commodore?
There we go.
We just
Sure.
had tariffs, and we needed these revenue cutters, and it was real easy to go see what was coming through the ports and collect a tax or a tariff on what was coming through the ports. And the revenue cutters had to be sure that the rum runners, also up in Newport, Rhode Island, where that was a famously big rum running area, right, Claire?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the revenue cutters. And this was to be your second clue, although everybody's already got it. There was, and I didn't know this till last night when I was putting this segment together. There was a service called the U.S. Life Saving Service. Did you know that, Julia?
Why wouldn't there be?
Oh, I didn't know it. Claire, did you know that?
I did not. No.
I didn't either. So the U.S. Life Saving Service was from just before the America's Cup Zero, 1848, until 1915. And it, it looks a little bit like what they do in the UK to this day. It was mostly charitable. And like the Royal Naval Lifeboat Institute.
RNLI. The Royal
RNLI.
Navy. Yeah. Was this inspired by that? Do you think?
I don't know. No, I think it's the other way around. This U.S. I think that's what you meant. U.S. Life Saving Service was probably inspired by the RNLI, but I don't know the connection.
That's what I meant.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what, if any. But there was this service, and then, as several of you noted in the chat, this gentleman, who was president,
Oh.
also the one who put in the income tax in the U.S., Thomas Woodrow Wilson. He is the one who decided to merge the U.S. Life Saving Service and the U.S. Revenue Cutter Service and turned them into the Coast Guard, which dates itself from 1790, as you can see. And it was on this date, 28 January, that President Woodrow Wilson signed the act to create the Coast Guard, merging the Life Saving and Revenue Cutter Services to create the Coast Guard. By the time the act was signed, there was a network, I had no idea, of more than 270 stations
I don't know.
covering the
Incredible.
Atlantic, Pacific, Gulf of Mexico, now Gulf of America, and the Great Lakes. I did not know that. Claire?
Mm-mm.
He
200
also, when Woodrow Wilson instituted the income tax, it was to be 1% of the income on only the people earning over $3,000 a year, which was a princely sum.
Mhm.
So very few people were paying the income tax, but they were paying on their princely sum of an income.
Mhm.
And of course, today it's closer to, by the time you pay state, federal, God knows what else, it's
Yeah.
north of 50% on most everybody. And we'll see if that persists under the new administration. This day in history, the 28th of January, 1915. For extra credit, what is the U.S. Coast Guard's motto?
Oh gosh.
I've forgotten.
It was on the slides.
Uh,
Semper Paratus,
Modest.
always ready.
always ready. Okay.
That sounds like you, Julia.
Absolutely.
Huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Semper Paratus, always ready. Right, Claire?
Always.
Always.
Sounds like the Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't have Boy Scouts anymore, right?
Do we? I don't know, but they were be prepared, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Be prepared.
Be
Yeah.
prepared, always ready. Same thing, I guess.
That's the Boy Scouts marching song.
Always ready. Clayton Emily knew that. Clayton Emily, you know, he's a Coast Guard captain. He's the guy. Semper Paratus, Alan Long knew it. Smart foes who we have on here this day in history. The Coast Guard was formed. We always check to see if the coast is clear before we do anything, right?
Right.
Yeah. The last leg to Gloucester, to change and end on something upbeat and happy and current and contemporary. I thought we should look in on the IQ foil, which are really starting their next cycle for, you know, this is the new, well, not the new, it's now one Olympic cycle old. It's the windsurfer, it's the sailboard, and they're having their internationals in John Emmett's favorite place, Lanzarote, one of my favorite places, in Lanzarote, Spain. And on the last leg, we're going to feature a preview of that regatta, which starts today, the IQ Foil Internationals.
Welcome to Lanzarote. Marina Rubicon is hosting the first 2025 IQ Foil International Games, which marks the official start of the Los Angeles 2028 Olympic cycle. With about 100 athletes representing 26 nations, the windy waters of the Canary Island are once again the perfect stage for this world-class competition. Known as a prime winter training destination for Olympic sailors, Lanzarote offers exceptional conditions all year round.
So happy to stay here. For me, Lanzarote is in my heart.
Everyone is saying that it's true, that the conditions here are always perfect for training.
It's an island like like Sardinia. It's always warm. For training is so nice because there are different conditions every day. It's windy, waves. Yes, I really love for this reason.
The event was officially kicked off at a press conference at the Marina Rubicon, where organizer Rafael Lasso welcomed local authorities who make this event possible.
Sailors really love the island, love the place, love the conditions, and the Lanzarote is a magical island and they really love it. So it's very, very nice, and we are very proud of being the first event of the Olympic cycle.
Today was practice session day. This served as the ideal test for the newly introduced equipment. 8-meter sails for the men and the 7.3-meter sails for the women, both designed to create a fairer and more balanced competition field. The stage is set. Competition begins tomorrow. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Nice video. I appreciate that very much, and we're going to follow that because it is an Olympic sport and it's a cool place. Claire Harrington, is it true
Yes,
that sailing is better on an island?
I suppose it's debatable. I would say that having an event on an island is pretty cool because it's a concentration of effort. You know, island being a relatively finite piece of land by definition, probably concentrates the focus of the event. The sailing conditions possibly better. I don't know about that. I mean, all the islands I've been involved with for sailing seem to be very anxious to sail around them. So that that's always a fun aspect of island sailing.
Which is, I mean, one of the best. In fact, my favorite race in Newport, and I only because I won it the first time I sailed in my little J24, is the Round Connecticut Island race, starting over there in front of Connecticut Yacht Club, and you go around usually clockwise and come back and finish. But you think about the islands, meaning, I mean, they don't realize that Newport is on an island. Sorry, Newport, you think about cows, the Isle of Wight. You think about Australia, which is just a big island. New Zealand, which is a smaller island, but still an island. You think about Sydney to Hobart, which ends up on an island. And you think about Maui, the Hawaiian island back in the days. I better have some coffee here, Julia.
Yes.
Clear my
Chicago,
throat.
Mackinac, you end on an island up there.
Good point. It
Yep.
seems like islands are a cool Bermuda and all the racing that goes on in Bermuda and Bermuda Race Week and
Block Island.
no, I don't need. Thank you. Julia's offering me. What I need is some of that bourbon cream. I think
I know.
Block Island Race Week in your neck of the woods.
Yep.
One of the great events.
Yeah.
And on and on and on. So that started today actually in Lanzarote, and John Emmett is saying yes, he loves that place, and Ted Ryman is replying to Gordon Smith saying no man or woman is an island.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, enough of all that. Julia, that gets us to our favorite segment here, your favorite segment, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, and because we've got Claire on the show, I had to keep them all clean.
Oh, good.
We couldn't have the Vice Commodore of New York on here. Here's the first one. Our relationship is over, the girl says via radio. And me, I go back, the guy there picture, he says, our relationship is what? Over. From Ted Ryman, a clean one from Ted. Yeah, Alan Long is talking about the Lake Erie Islands. We got everybody. We got Gilligan's Island from Stingray. Wouldn't you know it? Geez, Stingray, you're something else. Now, this comes from Will Bolden. The youth match racing world has, not the world's, but the world has moved on out to the Warren Jones Regatta now, out in WA. In the Swan River. It's going on as we speak. This was training the other day, yesterday or the day before. And that is Will Bolden on the back end of that boat coaching a local sailor. I'm going to play that again.
Oof,
but he's just minding his own business, shooting a video for us, Coach Will Bolden. And that's Max Brennan there with the long hair in the middle of the boat, an American Balboa Yacht Club kid who's been down in school in Sydney. That's Marcello Torre just standing up from the Royal Freshwater Bay, but the boat going by has clearly not had a good day. I know which boat it is. It's not anybody we're going to name, but it was, that looks painful, doesn't it?
It does.
It looked like they were being towed, right?
They were being towed. They apparently, it was such a fuster cluck that they could not get that thing sorted out. Mary Longpree is asserting that it's the Cole Tapper boat. Mary, you said it, not I.
Yeah.
But there is a fuster cluck of magnificent proportions, as we like to say.
Mess.
What a mess, indeed. Thanks to Will Bolden, who sent that along, and he's going to be sending us some more. We call him the Coach's Corner. And he helps me at the Balboa Yacht Club during the Governor's Cup. And he's a lot of fun, that old Will Bolden. He's in the late 20s, and he sent some other stuff, which frankly is not proper for a family show. Claire would think it was hilarious. Huh? She would think it was hilarious. Julia, you would think it's hilarious.
Yes.
But some others might not think it was so good. Thanks, Will Bolden. Much appreciated regardless. Yeah, that's known as a floating drop, Graham Sweeney is saying. Finally, there's this one. And apparently this is a real book published by Sludge House Books, On a Sailboat to Hell. Jessica and Peter thought sailing would be fun. Little did they know they'd get sucked into a satanic cult that could destroy their souls.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody know that book?
No.
It must have been on some Facebook joke page or something, because a veritable fest of Fozy, speaking of alliterations, sent that through.
I saw it
to me
earlier. Yeah.
Larry Gotch is saying to you, hi Claire, he must have just signed on. And Stingray is saying, I'm looking forward to all the round Greenland Island racing. Yeah, that's a good one too. And by the way, that gets us to the finish line. And I just want to say that on the 21st of February, apropos some discussion we had about radio-controlled yachts, I'm pleased to report that Coach John Rogers down in San Diego is going to come on and do a whole DF95. Are you into these radio-controlled boats at New York, Claire?
Oh yeah, well, it's not New York. A lot of New York Yacht Club members, they have a very, very active fleet in Newport. They sail all winter on the weekends, and Kenny Reed is one of the biggest. Well, he's the champion by far. It's a very, very active group.
And
I have
serious.
one.
Where do they sail? At Sail Newport or off your docks?
Sail Newport and also off the docks at New York Yacht Club in the summertime, or in the, it's kind of in the shoulder seasons,
Cool.
Tuesday nights, and yeah.
Well, I'm pleased to report that John Rogers down in San Diego, who is a big deal in DF95s and also a superb coach and a superb sailor of all types of yachts, he's coming on what did I say, the 21st of February. And John Emmett's working on his panel discussion. We got some cool panel discussions coming up. And thanks again to Claire and Julia and to Cole Brauer for what was a really cool show today, live from the Indian Ocean. We'd never done it before. Had no idea if it was going to work, Claire. But thanks to you, and thanks to Mr. Musk and his Starlink system, and to Julia for keeping us alive here, and all of you who give us a buck or two, we managed to pull it off. Alive? From half a world away, from out in the middle of the ocean.
I think that's exciting.
2,000 miles west of Australia. Isn't that what she said?
Yeah.
Cool stuff. Julia, you like to say?
Yes. Do not forget to like, follow, and share.
Indeed. Comments are welcome, even in replay. Those of you watching in replay, we were getting a lot of views for all these shows, 1,700, 2,000 viewers, and we appreciate each and every one of you, whether live or in replay. And we especially appreciate those who give us a few bucks a month by becoming a patron via patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated, because it does keep our studio on the air, our technology's improving bit by bit. We try to keep getting slightly better because, as you all know, there is no excuse for excellence, only for incremental, steady improvement. Whether it's the America's Cup, whether it's in business, whether it's in your personal life, you just have to try to do the next day a little bit better than you did the day before. Right, Commodore?
That's great advice. I love that.
Right, Commodore?
Absolutely.
The other Commodore? I got two Commodores on the show, and man, that is intimidating. A huge show today, Rick Bannerow. Cole was awesome guest. Thank you, Stingray. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for your support. We really do appreciate it. Also, thank you to those who gave us audio, video, and images, visuals for today's show. Final thoughts, Commodore Harrington?
Thank you so much for inviting me on today. It's always a great pleasure and an honor, and I very much appreciate.
Well, I think I think as you and I discussed when we were getting this teed up, I think having you on put Cole. I got to tell everybody what you said at the start of the show in the tech check. The first thing I said, the Commodore's on, Claire is on, you were here, Julia. And the first thing she says, we got Cole on, and the connection is superb. And she says, now, don't worry about Tom. He's not as big a crouton as he comes off, or he's not as aggressive. What did you say?
I don't remember. I didn't use the word crouton though, but I did say, don't let him rattle you, or don't let him scare you. Or
you did
something
say you were quite famously polite. Julia, final thoughts?
No, I very much enjoyed today's show, and I think some good things are going to come out of it.
Well, again, thanks to both of you. Thanks to everybody who tuned in today and who's watching in replay. We hope you have a great rest of your week, wherever in the world you are. If you can go sailing, do it. And sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. See you Friday.
Bye.
Bye-bye.